Spencer Reid, ex-female reader, by your local dumbass. As always, I'll leave a link in the description for the original fanfiction. I found it on Tumblr. If you want to check out my art, I'll also leave it in the description. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy more of my content. And let's get into the fanfic. They worked around inspecting the scene. It could have been anything. Homicide, self-defense, etc., etc. We don't have nearly enough to go by. No, actually, we have practically nothing to go by. Either way, Garcia snorted into the headset. It was a crime. Should I call him his last name? Spencer quirked a brow, raising his phone to gesture at who he'd asked. Morgan looked up from his station with a teasing grin, poking fun at the thought. Well, fact of Spencer having a girl's number. Last name, as in your name, last name? Yep. Well, shit. Derek chuckled to himself and continued working. Emily looked between the two with confusion scattered across her face. Why who's that? She frowned at the realization hit her. That YN? Well, that depends on who you're referring to when you say that YN. Her glare was strong. Spencer could have sworn he felt a drip of sweat. Sweat dripped down from his forehead from the intensity of her harsh gaze. Nevertheless, he allowed a teasing smirk of his own grace's lips. You know exactly who I'm referring to, Reid. That I do, but just saying. His sentence died down as he averted his eyes from Princess. She simply nodded and went back to work, the complaints returning just as she did. Are you sure? Mm-hmm. It wasn't Emily's fault that she didn't like YN. Well, okay, so it kind of was. She only disliked the mention of the woman because Spencer was boosting her like she was some kind of god. He'd been overly excited about how she cracked one of their cases much faster than they did, to which Emily rolled her eyes and added, yeah, she probably looked it up, and the other stories involving Spencer's fascination with the woman. Princess, are you 100% Fine. She rubbed her temples for a moment before returning to search for more to work with. Caller, I want to see what makes this YN so great. Is someone jealous or just having a bad day? Taking note of her attitude, Derek answered for Emily. Not the time, Mama. Not the time. Spencer had excused himself from the room to make his call, returning back to the ever so unfortunately tension filled the room. His attitude had changed as well, leaving kind of bored, returning with a large amount of excitement. So, she's on her way. The wait for this mystery woman would arrive was interesting. Derek couldn't help but notice, and also get distracted with his observation, how usually distracted and determined the doctor was, and how he smiled and blushed after a soft snicker would escape his mouth every now and then. Emily seemed to dread it, but he couldn't tell. Not with how elated she'd acted the whole day. At this point, he couldn't tell whether she was feeling anything aside from anger. They worked in silence. Small talk was there, but not permanently. Until a knock came from the door of the apartment where they were working in. Spencer was the first to hop up, tripping over his own feet as he sped to the door and answered it. It swung open to reveal a very beautiful woman who Princess and Emily guessed was guessed to be Wyan. However, it wasn't it wasn't the looks that had shocked them. It was what they saw next that did the trick. The woman, possibly Wyan, lifted her hand from Dr. Reid's cheek and pulled him in for a loving kiss. He raised his hand to meet hers and made a small noise of appreciation as he smiled into their kiss. Not that the other two could see it. After they pulled away from each other, she wrapped her arms around him and held him tightly to her. Spencer mirroring her actions and holding her flesh against his chest as it heaved with a hearty chuckle. It took them a moment to remember that they were in a very public location. Hi, I'm Wyan. Derek's brows were still escaping to the top of his forehead. The shock and image from what had just happened never seeming to process in his mind. The woman in front of him nodded, pulling out a pair of latex gloves and putting them on. I hear you guys need help. Nope, just wanted to see if you were as good as Reid says you are. So, have at it? Emily stood up and pulled her own gloves off before walking over and leaning against the wall by the door. Are you sure it's okay? By all means, Firecracker. Take a look. Derek followed Emily's action of rising from the ground, but stayed planted where he was. Firecracker? Garcia laughed loud. The noise from Derek's phone startling Wyan slightly. Just a nickname from, of course, Moy. Her giggle faded quickly as she interrupted with more of a comment. From what our lovely Dr. Reid says about you, I'm come up with Firecracker. Let's just hope we're both right. Wyan nodded slowly and began inspecting, weaving in and out of rooms. The three stayed out there, out of her way, next to or against the wall, as they watched her, although not much time had passed. Princess smiled a little, feeling as if she would be right about this time, as if she knew Wyan couldn't do what Spencer had claimed she could do. If only she hadn't jinxed her luck with the thought of success. Wyan had cracked it. She had only been in the room for about 10 to 20 minutes. Alright, you see these? She gestured to a couple of splatters of blood on the floor next to the kitchen counter. And this? And then she walked to the bathroom, which was the first room, the hallway that led to the kitchen. And put it right there. Finally, she pointed to the main spot where the blood had been. She walked to the room next to the bathroom, which was a bedroom. This room was not the owner's, as their room is the next one over. And how do you know? Princess inquired. Oh, because their belongings and photos of them with friends and family and the other one, but this is pretty much empty if you don't count the bed and the bed sheets. The person was likely the unsub's partner or parent, and how do you know that too? Well, they killed the person due to abuse-related terms, which, before you ask again, I know because the belt in the other person's drawer was covered in tiny splatters of blood. And she lifted a comforter. There's smear marks along the bed sheets. Can you guess what it is? Blood? Bingo, point to Morgan. Yes, it is blood. So the person was stabbed somewhere around the bathroom. We figured out that much out. But what about the blood in the kitchen? Great, yes, and glad you asked. Remember the blood on the belt I mentioned not less than a minute ago? Well, the person was hit with the belt so hard they bled, went to sleep, got some other sheets, and, well, the, and went through that so many times after being hit again and again, they just. She popped her lips, snapped. Actually, Firecracker's right on this one. Garcia sounded just as shocked as Morgan, and Prentice looked. Did some did some research on the owner of the apartment, and multiple counts of abuse had been made against them. Lyon held the silence after Garcia's comment for a bit longer, turning to Spencer with a nervous smile. So, how'd I do? Honestly, he smiled with pride and adoration. I think it would have taken us quite a while had you not been here. Yeah, you can say that again, Derek added with a chuckle. And though she had a hard time saying it, Prince just gave in. You've got some good skill, kid. Thanks for the help. And that is the end of the fanfiction. If you liked, please comment and subscribe, and consider checking out my Tumblr. I will be posting most, if not every day, at sometime between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. So, yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.